Welcome to Agri-Pulse Newsmakers, where we aim to take you to the heart of ag policy. I'm Spencer Chase. This will be our last show of 2022, and we wanted to try something a little different. In November, we spoke with several ag policy organizations about what they expect to prioritize in the new year. In this week's show, we'll bring you their comments and offer a look at the biggest farm policy priorities in 2023. Congress will have the reauthorization of the 2018 Farm Bill on the agenda, and many groups will be sharing their priorities with lawmakers. One such group is the National Corn Growers Association. Their chairman, Chris Edgington, told us protecting crop insurance is their top priority for the 2023 Farm Bill, and several other organizations have it as a high priority as well.
Well, there's no question we're going to start with crop insurance. It's our number one risk management tool. It is and has been and will be. It's a great relationship, a great farmer, public, private type of relationship. So it works really well. Obviously, there'll be discussion around conservation and conservation practices. There'll be some discussion around MAP and FMD. We would like to see that doubled because they haven't changed that in about 20 years. Well, inflation is cut into those dollars in a big way, and that affects all commodity groups. That affects everybody, and it's a way to increase some demand outside of the United States. And then you're going to talk about there's some other things that are inside the Farm Bill that always come up: base acres, reference prices, food security. I mean, a big chunk of it is it's a food security bill in a lot of ways because you've got all of the other food security things that go into SNAP and supplemental nutrition, school programs, and all of that. So there's always a whole litany of things to talk about. And this year, because we are going to have a fairly large turnover of people that are in the House Ag Committee, there's going to be a lot more education going on than maybe if we had a really seasoned group of Farm Bill people there, and that's not the case.
I think it's going to be, that safety net crop insurance, and then it is going to be conservation. From a CRP side, we're not going to want to see the cap go up, and if we can continue to move towards the working land programs and the land that's in CRP being more that marginal land or grasslands, not productive prime farmland, that's going to be a real priority for us from the Farm Bill standpoint.
Yeah, well, the first thing is we want to make sure we protect crop insurance because it's the cornerstone of the Farm Bill. Our farmers have grown, adapted to using that as a risk management tool. And then in Title I, our delegates will probably fine-tune that in Puerto Rico when we go to our annual convention because the input costs are up so high, and they may want to talk about the target prices and whether or not they're at the level they should be. All the discussion around climate and smart practices and conservation, our people will support that as long as it's voluntary, market, and incentive-based programs. And of course, we always support that research and development monies that actually discovers the new technologies and new projects that we can take and put on our farm to continue our journey on being as safe to the planet as we can be, because we've come such a long ways in the last 3 decades. And I guess the last thing is to make sure that everybody understands the importance of keeping the nutrition and the farm program part together in one Farm Bill. It really should be called the Food and Farm Bill.
We'll be right back with the top priorities of more organizations right after this.
It's not as simple just to wake up one day and go, I want to be a conservation farmer. You're changing how your farming practice is done. You're changing your operation.
Farm Credit supported John and Kelly Watley as they shifted to more sustainable farming, improving the environment where they farm and live. Learn more at farmcredit.com/climate.
At Bayer, we know possibility grows from the seed of a vision. That you can start small and still reach big dreams. That we can nurture the future in our schools to create innovations down the road. That rural communities aren't just farms, but all the people they feed. That's why Bayer partners with farmers to protect those ideas. Because together, we're tending tomorrow's harvest.
Welcome back. From corn to soybeans, rice to cotton, beef to pork, and everything in between, agricultural organizations have been honing their policy positions ahead of the deliberations for the upcoming Farm Bill. Biofuel organizations are no exception. The 2023 Farm Bill will be the fifth Farm Bill to contain an energy title. Jeff Cooper with the Renewable Fuels Association knows it's important to get the right amount of funding in that title.
Yeah, we certainly will be very active in advocating for a strong energy title in the Farm Bill that again provides some of the sorts of support and programs and grants and loan guarantees and things that we've seen in past Farm Bills. We think those programs have been very successful. You know, we look at programs like the HBIP, the infrastructure program that USDA has managed, and see it as a great success, and we're going to be pushing for inclusion of similar provisions in the next Farm Bill to go along with the $500 million in infrastructure funding that was in the Inflation Reduction Act. So we think there's a real opportunity to put that program on steroids as we move into 2023 and really rapidly build out the infrastructure necessary to get to E15 nationwide and flex fuels like E85 as well.
We're looking at, the climate smart agriculture money that was allotted to USDA through the Inflation Reduction Act. We've talked with a lot of members of Congress, both Republican and Democratic, that, they either want to maybe reconfigure how some of that works or get their hands on some of that money. And we're not arguing with them about that because it's billions and billions of dollars, but USDA, I think, has really done an incredible job of trying to make funds available to the agriculture industry and certainly farmers to help sort of fortify or reinforce how ethanol is part of the climate solution, how agriculture can be part of the climate solution. And what we want to do in the 2023 Farm Bill is make sure that we protect that funding and that we direct it at projects that help farmers engage in practices, whether it's conservation tillage or more efficient use of fertilizer, that bring down the carbon score of corn production, because after all, corn production is responsible for half of corn ethanol's carbon footprint. So the more we can do on the farm to reduce ethanol's carbon footprint, the more my members could take advantage of these new markets that are being stood up that reward fuels based on their ability to reduce greenhouse gases. So we want to protect that funding for USDA in the Farm Bill.
We're beginning that conversation, and I know that we're behind a lot of our agricultural friends. We really haven't framed out a pesticide industry position on the Farm Bill in the past. We certainly want to continue to reinforce the need for government agencies to work together. In the 2018 Farm Bill, we actually created an interagency working group between EPA, Fish and Wildlife Service, USDA, and Department of Commerce to better manage the implementation of the Endangered Species Act. We expect to see that again in 2023. But we're also looking at the precision agriculture tools, how those are given support. Are there tools and technologies like see and spray sprayers? Are there other GPS, GIS technologies that farmers are using that may be eligible for cost share assistance or technical assistance that help them better manage their pesticide applications? So we're going to take a look at all of those things. We will look as well at the conservation programs as farmers are being asked to put mitigation measures in place. Is there a way that the Farm Bill can help support the implementation and adoption of those practices?
Well, really trying to look at the priorities. It's going to be a bit of a mess. There's a lot of new members in both the House and Senate Ag Committees who have never been through a Farm Bill, so that's an education process. We know that we're going to have some people that are going to want to split nutrition off from the rest of the Farm Bill because it's such a big part of the Farm Bill. We're not big supporters of that. I don't think most ag organizations are. We think it's a vital part of that Farm Bill, so we want it to stay there. And then we're just going to have to work through Congress, and there's going to be a lot on the new Congress's plate. I have my doubts that we'll be able to get the Farm Bill done in 2023, and it's always one of those political things. Extend the current Farm Bill for a year, and you bring it home for the 2024 elections. So there's a good chance that we could see this carry over into 2024, and it could be part of the big elections in that year.
Obviously, a big part of everything that we do is focused on foreign animal disease and the prevention and preparedness for African swine fever. So focusing on funding for the vaccine bank for foot and mouth disease, working on the NALMS labs to ensure that they have the proper funding, that if we ever have an outbreak, those labs are operational to do the testing that's going to be required for us to be successful in overcoming it. But then also working on things like conservation and ensuring that there's opportunity there for producers as we continue to be better stewards of the environment that we live and operate in.
We're not patient, so we want to get everything done pre-Farm Bill. But anything we don't get done before the Farm Bill, we're going to work on in the Farm Bill environment. We're having conversations about some Packers and Stockyards Act updates just from a regulatory perspective. We have an expectation of USDA as it relates to tags. They currently provide tags for those animals that are required to be tagged under animal disease traceability. I worry about if they're going to do that forever, and so we're having some conversations with industry about maybe that requirement needs to either happen through the Farm Bill or an appropriations process.
Well, we have a number of issues that we're focused on in the Farm Bill, and some of those are, of course, improved safety net under the farm programs that we have. We have felt that soybeans is not very well supported in that part of the Farm Bill, and so we would like to improve our subsidy levels in that area. Other things are to leave crop insurance alone. We think that is a perfect safety net option that a lot of people use, and it needs to be there. One of the other areas that we're working on, of course, we export 50% of the soybeans that we grow from the United States, and so export enhancement through MAP and FMD, which is market access programs, and what was the FMD? Federal Market Development. Yes, and so we want to support those and improve those programs because we need diversity in our markets, and we've got a lot of our soybeans go to China right now, which is a great market for us, and we want to continue to grow that. But we also need other options in our foreign markets, and we just want to diversify that. So improving those two programs, MAP and FMD, would help in that way.
We'll be right back with more priorities Farm Group shared with us heading into the new year. But first, our Hannah Pegel takes a closer look at the Farm Bill's baseline funding in this week's Ag by the Numbers.
A Congressional Research Service analysis shows nutrition spending is expected to make up an even bigger piece of the Farm Bill pie than the 76% from the last CRS report. In fact, nutrition spending is now expected to account for 84% of the Farm Bill baseline. This chart shows a 10-year baseline for Farm Bill programs by title. According to the CRS analysis of Congressional Budget Office figures, as of this May, the 10-year projection for Farm Bill programs is slightly less than $1.3 trillion. Of that total, nutrition spending will account for just over $1 trillion. The remaining non-nutrition programs are expected to total nearly $205 billion over the next 10 years. The three remaining categories outside of nutrition include conservation, crop insurance, and commodity programs. Crop insurance funding is expected to be about $79.7 billion, with commodity programs estimated at $56.1 billion, and conservation programs coming in a little higher than that at $59.2 billion. But remember, there's also $20 billion in the Inflation Reduction Act for conservation spending that will certainly be on lawmakers' minds as they write the upcoming Farm Bill. The remaining 8 titles of the Farm Bill account for just under $10 billion in mandatory spending. For Agri-Pulse, I'm Hannah Pegel.
Farmers are always there for each other. We shed tears together, we celebrate together, but we also grow together. Farm Bureau is the largest general farm organization in the country. We have the farmers' back. If you're a farmer and you're not a member, we would welcome you into our Farm Bureau family. And if you want to know more about agriculture, come be part of this great family.
Welcome back. There will be many new faces in Congress as lawmakers work toward passing a new farm bill. American Farm Bureau Federation President Zippy Duvall says it's important to make sure new lawmakers know how important the farm bill is and how many people it affects.
Policy issue, the priority is going to be the farm bill at the top of the list, and we'll be working hard to make sure these new congressmen and senators that are coming to town understand how it affects their constituents, and it affects every American. It's the most important piece of legislation, farm legislation that goes through Capitol Hill. And then, of course, we'll keep an eye on input cost and whatever we might can do to help that situation because our farmers are really nervous about the opportunity to have the availability and be able to afford it. And then we'll be watching a lot around crop protection tools that are being reconsidered for registration in EPA and WOTAs. You know, the list is not short. It keeps going on and on and on. And of course, I don't want to miss out. We keep our own mental health issues around the state, around the country, and try to make sure that everybody understands the resources that are out there for that.
Well, obviously, the Farm Bill expires in 2023, and so the lead up to that is going to be extremely important for us and for the agriculture community as a whole. And so how do we work with that community to make sure that we get what we need in the Farm Bill? The Title I programs for all our row crops are key, but also we look at it from the standpoint of research. The research title is absolutely vital to our industry, being able to work with the public land grant institutions and the resources that they bring to us, the Ag Research Service at USDA. They help us find the genetic tools that we need to bring to farmers. So Farm Bill is going to be key as we go into this. We've got a new Congress, so we have to educate a lot of people. And then trade. Trade we got to get that out of the blocks. It's really in a stalled mode, and globally we're losing some opportunities.
Well, obviously we're going to work on the Farm Bill. I mean, that's a big priority for the year, but we're also going to talk about Next Generation Fuels Act. We're going to talk about demand and the challenges Mexico might be creating for us as people are figuring out what they're going to grow. And it's not going to change much for next year because it's a multi-year process to get to GMO or non-GMO corn, and you just don't flip a switch on that. And input costs are high, and profit margins could be really tight. So there's a lot of things to talk about, and we need Mother Nature to give us a good growing year.
First is international trade. More than 25% of our product, up to 30% of our product is exported. Got to make sure those opportunities are still there for our industry. On domestic policy, 2023 is going to be a Farm Bill year, and we have some opportunities there as we move forward. And then on state policy, things like Prop 12 and ensuring that our producers are watched out for there. And then corporate policy as we look at shareholder outreach and how do we help these companies transition to higher food prices and make good decisions on behalf of their customers as well as our industry.
I think obviously 2023 is going to be two things. Obviously going into the Farm Bill and making sure we preserve crop insurance, maintain a strong safety net for producers, and that those programs are market oriented. And then also a focus on the conservation programs and really focusing on making sure we continue to move towards those working lands programs where we get proven conservation benefits, but we also keep land in production. And I think when you see some of the challenges we've had, transportation issues, global food security issues this year, that really shows the importance of making sure that we're keeping that land in production and getting those benefits, but making sure we're continuing to take crops off of it as well.
Modernization of the Packers and Stockyards Act, the law is 101 years old, and so there are pieces that just do not match our businesses today. For example, livestock auctions can't own or invest in a packer. That might have made sense in the terminal stockyards days. It doesn't make sense today. Or a lot of our money is coming through checks in the mail. We want to move more people in the livestock industry towards electronic payment, but it's going to require making some adjustments to the act to make that work.
We'll be right back to hear from more organizations right after this.
Looking closer, seeing further. That's how we do it. At Curious Plot, we're driven to find what's next for agriculture, animal care, and food. We stay curious because that's what it takes to grow understanding. That's how we plot strategies and tell stories that get results time after time. Marketing, communications, and consulting that look closer and see further. Curious Plot. We can't wait to help you tell your story.
Welcome back. Last year, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals reversed an EPA rule allowing the year-round sale of E15. Biofuel groups got relief this year when the Biden administration used emergency authority to allow the fuel to be sold throughout the summer. But Brian Jennings with the American Coalition for Ethanol told us their top priority is solving that problem once and for all.
Well, we've got to say E15 year-round, and that's because we don't have that issue solved, right? The emergency waiver in 2022 was helpful, but we're pursuing avenues so we don't have to revisit this topic year after year after year. So whether that's the 8 Midwestern states and the governors, the proactive leadership they've demonstrated to petition EPA, and by the way, our conversations with EPA make us very optimistic that they'll approve this request eventually in time, in fact, for the June 1st, 2023 driving season, or to address this on a national basis and frankly, a permanent basis, and that's with a legislative remedy. And we've been talking with Senator Fisher and this kind of a new iteration on that legislation that she's working on that appears to have the support of the American Petroleum Institute. There might be an opportunity, to move forward given that development. I don't know if that's a lame duck opportunity or maybe more likely a 2023 opportunity. But we've got so many things on our to-do list. There are other topics that are really vital to our members. But solving this E15 year-round issue is right at the top.
Yeah, top priorities to start out 2023 is going to be the renewable fuel standard. Obviously, we're anxiously awaiting EPA to propose the standards for 2023 and very likely 2024 and 25 as well. We'll be commenting and providing public input and doing as much as we can to promote strong volumes for the final rule, which we expect to see in June of 2023. So RFS is going to be a top priority and demand a lot of our attention in the early part of 2023. The other thing that's at the top of our priority list, of course, is resolving the summertime barrier on E15. We're hopeful and think there may be an outside chance that we might get some resolution on that during lame duck. We're at least going to give it our best shot. But failing that, we'll certainly be prioritizing a legislative solution for RVP in the new Congress as well.
And first and foremost, an irony maybe for a lot of your listeners is that we are needing to invest more resources in the EPA. If you look at EPA staffing today, particularly the agency that reviews pesticides, they've had a 30% cut in personnel, but they're getting 50% more applications in today. EPA during COVID was seeing a significant increase in the number of applications of pesticide products related to helping address the COVID virus. And so all of that has created a backlog for the agricultural chemicals that go through that same division. So we're working on something called the Pesticide Registration Improvement Act. It's a 20-year-old law that creates user fees where our companies are going to increase our investment into EPA through an increase in user fees. But we also need Congress to step up and begin truly funding the scientists who are needed at EPA to make the decisions. For us, EPA is supposed to review a pesticide within 2 years. They're now taking 4. And that is an impact to my company's bottom line, but that also changes the nature of the investments that we make, which means that there may be some farmers out there who aren't going to have the new tools developed because we simply can't get the type of return on investment needed because of these regulatory delays. That's priority 1. Priority 2 is going to be continuing to work with EPA on the implementation and management of the Endangered Species Act. And that's showing up very much on the farm doorstep because as EPA is registering new pesticides, they're including mitigation measures up front, which means that a farmer, if they want to use a specific chemical on their farm, they may have to have a setback. They may have to plant a vegetative filter strip of some type. They may have to use conservation tillage if they're not using that already. So all of these new farm practice measures are going to be tied to the use of individual chemistries moving forward, and all of that is so that EPA can comply with the Endangered Species Act.
We'll be right back with more Agri-Pulse Newsmakers, but first, our Andrew Hunnicky has a look at someone you should know in DC in this week's Featured Farmhand.
This week's Featured Farmhand is Renee Manasafi, Director of Global Government and Industry Affairs with Nutrien. She originally came to Washington to pursue a career in foreign service, but a job in South Dakota Republican John Thune's office introduced her to farm policy and the 2008 Farm Bill. Before starting with Nutrien, she worked at the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation in Agriculture. She enjoyed her time there because it allowed her to merge ag policy with her love of foreign policy, and that led to her current position.
And definitely I still have the passion for international affairs and foreign policy. And I do a lot of that in my current role and in previous roles, working on some of the issues that impact our global operations, and then working with some of my counterparts in other countries and on trade issues as well. So I still have that kind of love for the foreign aspect in ag policy, and especially with global food security and those types of concerns, I really think those two go hand in hand.
Renee also spoke about the most important advice she's been given and how farm policy has changed since her career started. Head to Agri-Pulse.com to watch her full interview. For Agri-Pulse, I'm Andrew Hunnicky.
Did you know Agri-Pulse has all your favorite podcasts, including Open Mic, Newsmakers, and Drive Time? Take us wherever you go. Subscribe at agripulse.com or on Spotify, Google Play, or Apple Podcasts.
Agriculture Future of America is a nonprofit building transformational leaders in food and agriculture. AFA prepares college students to join the workforce as innovative and engaged young professionals who will shape the future of agriculture. Head to agfuture.org to find out how you can get involved.
Welcome back. That wraps up our final Newsmakers show of the year. When we started this program in February, we said it was going to be a fun and informative journey. I'm a little biased, but I think we've accomplished both of those goals this year. And we're looking forward to continuing these discussions and bringing you the latest news on ag policy in the new year. As a reminder, you can look for Newsmakers on RFD TV starting January 7th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, as well as on our website at agripulse.com. That's going to do it for this week and for this year. Thanks again for joining us. For Agri-Pulse Newsmakers, I'm Spencer Chase. Have a good one.
Newsmakers is a production of Agri-Pulse Communications. For more ag policy news, visit agripulse.com. You can also find our new content on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to follow Agri-Pulse and our correspondents on social media to get breaking news and more.